Hey, Nathan and Aiden, I'm going to just make a few comments. These don't apply to everybody. So if you didn't do this, just, I don't know, ignore me briefly. You shouldn't ignore me, probably. But don't, if you didn't do this on your paper, hey, I am not talking to you about this. But first up, for whatever reason, when we are talking about the world wars, we say Roman numeral 2. We don't do this, and we don't do this. And don't ask me why. I don't know. That is the custom. World War I and World War II always have a Roman numeral 1 and 2. And I think it's cool too. But I got several of these. Maybe not from you. You know, I have other students on Tuesday. I can't even remember which group. But I just thought it's worth mentioning because it's not something we write down a lot, I guess. So that's my first comment. Semicolons and colons. They can be so very tricky. They're very useful, but sometimes we don't know when to use them. Yes, sir. Okay, but then I'm glad I'm going to do this. Yes, so this is a semicolon, and this is a colon. When do we use them? Okay, semicolons. Do you have something for me? Oh, no. Semicolons. The other one, that's colons. Semicolons, and you can jot this down if you want to, join two complete sentences. Yes, Oren. Yes, unless it's not two complete sentences. Like we can't say, I ate ham and cheese, ham, semicolon, cheese for my lunch. So for example, the sun is shining. That's a complete sentence. I am happy. That is a complete sentence. We can't just write that. That is called a run-on sentence. You put two sentences together, you just boom, slap them together, you didn't do anything. It's illegal. But I have options. I can say the sun is shining, comma, and I am happy. This would be good in this case. The sun is shining, comma, so I am happy, because the happy comes from the sun. I am happy because the sun is shining. That is legal. And that would make me sound very much sort of delusional, like I'm in charge of the universe. But it might be true for some people. But this is the place for a semicolon. The sun is shining, semicolon, I am happy. We can just slap that baby in there, shove two sentences. You don't need a conjunction. You don't need any other joining word. You can just use a semicolon. And I like them. I think I use them too much. I noticed, do you guys know I type an email to your parents every week? And I abuse semicolons. I like them so much. I'm just semicolon here because they seem very dramatic to me. The sun is shining. I am happy. And I like the way it sounds, but the sun is shining and I am happy. That sounds too boring for me. And you can, Oren is correct. I can just make it two sentences. There's one thing I can't do, and that's not do anything. Just say, the sun is shining, I'm happy. This is illegal. I don't think you will be arrested, but it's illegal nonetheless. Okay, so what about a colon then? You said it, Jonathan, you said it. Introduce lists or explanations. So, but here's the trick. It only introduces lists and explanations after a complete thought. Yes.
Explanations, like what you're doing right now.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Colons can be used as follows. Okay, that is a complete thought. Colons can be used as follows. To list items and complete explanations. This is how to use a colon. And I want you to just take a look at what I wrote after the colon. To list items and complete explanations. Is that a sentence? No. It doesn't have a verb. It doesn't have, technically it doesn't have a verb. These are infinitives, to list and to complete. To list items and complete explanations. If I just said that to you, to list items and complete explanations, you would say, something's missing in what you just said, Mrs. Ferguson. That doesn't make sense. I don't use a complete sentence after a colon. Or sometimes people want to do like this. Colons can be used to list items and complete explanations. Well, colons can be used. Technically, I guess that is a complete thought, but it's not very full. In this case, I really don't need anything. Colons can be used to list items and complete explanations. That's a sentence by itself. My shopping list was overflowing. This is a sentence. And then I could list things on my shopping list. Chocolate, ice cream, cookies, Snickers bars. Do you see a pattern developing on my shopping list? I can do it like that. So sometimes on your paper, you will see that you'll have a semicolon, and I use my little red pen to turn it into a colon. Sometimes you just have a comma, and I put a semicolon because maybe you've put two sentences together with only a comma. Take a look at those. But always, if I change one of those and you don't understand why, would you please ask me? Because if you did it, somebody else probably did it too. And nothing I'm talking about has only one person done. So, okay, last thing on our grammar morning. I'm going to try to say this nicely, but I feel very strongly about apostrophes and proper nouns being capitalized. And Jaden, you're not the only person who doesn't, obviously, because what's the deal? So, years ago, in Roman times, Greek times, they wrote in all capital letters with no spaces between words. Seriously? Oh, I am serious. No. Yes, and I can't even imagine. Have you ever seen, our brains are amazing, and if somebody writes a paper with, like, they just put the letters there, but no spaces, your brain would be able to adjust and you would start picking out the words because, you're used to reading these words. But I can't imagine how hard that would be to do it all the time. I have a reason for telling you this, but I'll let Oren chime in. No, there's no punctuation, yes. No punctuation, all caps. So here's my point. We have spent 2,000 years developing spaces between words and punctuation that makes things readable. Don't stop using them. You owe it to 2,000 years of people who have worked on this. Don't stop. I don't know. This probably doesn't apply to all of you. And what I'm about to say also applies to grown-ups. So I'm not just nagging on young people. And maybe you don't have a phone of your own, but if you have a phone and you text, people don't use them when they text. And it drives me bananas. Like, I don't even want to answer a text if it doesn't have apostrophes and punctuation and capitals. No, don't send me that with your bad grammar. Don't send me that. So I don't say that to the people, and I do answer them, but I don't like it. And I think that we're a society that's getting used to not using them. We're going to be sorry someday because it makes us not understandable. I will let me Oren and then Jonathan. Yes. But the important thing is, do you use punctuation and apostrophes? Okay, then I don't care what language you use. Excellent. All right. If we can divide ourselves. So just remember, proper nouns have earned a capital. I got a lot of Battle of Hastings. Battle of Hastings. In the name of a battle, I mean, Hastings is a place, so we would always capitalize it. Battle is a part of the kind of the title of it. It's the Battle of Hastings, and so use it capital. Also, I get a lot of small B Bibles or small, and I was always taught Bible is always capital B. And then obviously, please use Oren's hand is up. Yes. With a little, yes, with little W's. Yes. I feel like capitals are a sign of honor. So all your names are capitalized because you're a person and you matter. You're important. So Caleb, you get a big C. And most of us don't use little letters with our own names. But also give that respect to places, and I just think it's a sign of respect. It's like Mr. or Mrs. It's just you're capital, you're special. So anyway, this is my effort to encourage you to watch your grammar, watch your punctuation. Also, it is possible. I'm not pointing the finger at anyone, but it is possible that you might type or write something and then not read it again. No. That should not be happening. After you write something, you should set it aside, read it again the next day. You will find mistakes. You know, I make these guides for you guys. I'm just going to totally tell you, sometimes I didn't read it again. And then I'm teaching, and it's very embarrassing because I have mistakes in my questions. Because proofreading is for everybody. It's not, oh, I'm such a good reader, I don't need to proofread. Your finger can always hit the wrong key. Your brain can always glitch if you're handwriting and you leave out a word. I do it all the time. And so read what you wrote again before you give it to someone, me, whatever. Do you want to say something, Zach? You look like you had a comment.
I mean, my mom makes me proofread it like 3 times. Like,
okay. Proofreading, I will say, I don't know if this is true or not, but I suspect it might be true, that the difference between a good writer and a bad writer is not that the good writer has tons of natural talent and the bad writer doesn't. It's that the good writer proofreads and changes and revises, and the bad writer just writes something and just leaves it. I suspect that's true. Yes, Nathan.
Yeah, I had to there's this like section where I had to actually where this part was like completely wrong and I wanted to change the wording.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did, and it took me like 5 minutes. It took me a really long time.
Do you know what? That's hard. That's why we don't want to do it, Nathan. I don't want to do it either. I just want to write it and be done. Okay, there, I did it. I wrote it and I'm done. And then, but I go back later and I think, well, that's kind of lame sounding. I don't like the way that sounds. And now how do I make it better? Well, that's tough. So I get that with it, it's tiresome and we don't want to do it, but it's what makes us better writers. Anyway, but the point of my saying that also was that you will probably catch, oh, that should have been capitalized. Oh, I left my apostrophe out and things like that when you proofread. Yes.
Oh, I accidentally put a W in front of the word grain.
Yes. It just sounded exciting. It was just a very exciting word. Ukraine. Okay, so Xander, you came in a little later. Do you have outlines? Do you want? Let me look at your outlines.
Oh no, I forgot.
You know what? I forgive you if you forgot them.
Yeah, I forgot.
It's okay.
Were
you able to do it and you're okay? All right, that was the important thing. So here's what I'd like you guys to do for next week. We are taking your fused, okay, this is important, I guess. Taking your fused outline. You're not going to write a paper from all the outlines you did, okay? The first 2 outlines were just to gather information. The last outline is to sort of sift through your information and decide what the best of the best was. And maybe even put it in a little bit of an order. I didn't tell you that, but sometimes I put them in order. But if you didn't, it's okay. Yes, Hans. 2. You did 3 outlines, and each outline had 2 paragraphs. So unless you just really, really loved castles so much and you wanted to do a 3rd paragraph, which if you write it, I will read it. But I only asked you for 2. So you're going to take that last outline, that fused outline, and that's, you can just, frankly, you can throw away your source 1 and source 2 outlines. We don't need them anymore. We don't need them anymore. Oh, oh, yeah.
Just for like this one thing that we're gonna eventually throw away anyway.
I know, I know.
Distracts them that we'll throw away that just to write the final.
Well, that's kind of like proofreading. You know, we write a rough draft, and then we go, and then we throw away the rough draft because now we have a better one. We have a better one. I want you to write a 2-paragraph paper about castles. You already have an outline. So basically all you have to do is go to your outline and turn them back into sentences. I want parallelism 1 with words, parallelism 2 with phrases or clauses, and a strong verb. No new thing, just the 3 things that we've been doing. Well, that was just because people were not using them correctly. If you want to use a semicolon or a colon, you just go for it. If you hate them, don't use them. You don't have to use them. Writing is fine without a semicolon or a colon. All right. Are we good? Gentlemen, Micah and Xander, are we good? Okay. So that's for next week. Let's move on to chapter 10. So you can look at your reading questions on page 25. It would help if I put my glasses in front of my eyes to look at that number.
I can figure out what was the last question.
Oh, awesome. Well, we will, when you leave today, you will know. We will make sure. Chapter 10 was about the feudal system. And hey, guys, we talked about that a couple weeks ago. What were we talking about when we did the church being sucked into the feudal system? How the church was given land, and so it had lords that it owed service to. So does it strike you that the word feudal system is kind of funny sounding? Does it sound like they fight all the time? Feudal?
I think it sounds like for a week or something.
Do you know what a feud is? You know, when people fight. But the reason it's called that, Dorothy Mills tells you that, so I give Micah a piece of land. I'm the queen. I just suddenly promoted myself. Now I'm the queen. And Micah is one of the lords of the realm. Congratulations. And I've awarded him land, and we call that land a fief. What? A fief. But sometimes we also call it a few. And so if they had chosen the other one, I guess we'd call it the fiefdal system. That's bad. So we call it the feudal system because that sounds prettier, I guess. I don't know. And so it's all based on me giving you a present, but I don't give away stuff for free, you know. I'm not that nice. I give away stuff, and then I expect you to do something for me. And you know what? We're going to skip because I went here. We're going to go to the second question. We'll do the first one, but we're going to go to the second one first. What are the 3 feudal aids? Or what do vassals? What does Micah have to do for me now? Because I gave him land. Yes.
Pay a ransom for the Lord if needed.
Okay. Pay a ransom.
Make the Lord's son a knight. Like pay for him to become a knight.
Pay for him to become a knight.
And provide a dowry for the Lord's daughter.
Provide a dowry. Okay. So, ransom, let's talk about each of these. Ransom their lord from captivity if he is taken prisoner. Does this happen so often that it has to be one of the standard contract things? Apparently, yes. In fact, famously, do you remember we were talking last week, 2 weeks ago about Richard the Lionhearted and his stupid brother King John, who was in the Disney movie of Robin Hood, is the lion who sucks his thumb and has a snake for a friend. Anyway, his brother Richard was off on crusade, and he came back, and Richard was just very loud. He made enemies. He annoyed people, and and somebody he annoyed kidnapped him on the way home. Seriously, and just put him in a castle, just locked him up, and sent a message to England saying, if you want your king back, pay up. How is that okay with everyone? That is just so wrong. So the problem with England is they didn't have enough money. His mom Eleanor was trying to scrape together money, but this would have been a case where all his vassals would have had to fork over money to ransom their king. I don't remember if they ever forked over the money or not, but the story is that Richard had a favorite minstrel, someone who walked around singing songs. Okay, it was his entertainment. And Blondel. And Blondel wanted to find the king, so he wandered through the forests of like Italy and Germany and France, playing his little song. I don't know what it was, but he was playing a song. Could have been. And one day he's singing, and then he stops singing, and he hears the next line being sung from somewhere, and he realizes he's found the place where Richard is being held captive. This sounds like a made-up story to me, but I think it's true. You know what? Oh, well, that gives it a different twist, but it wasn't a trap. It was him. So that's the first thing that Micah has to do for me. He has to ransom me if I am captive. So I'm going to be really careful not to get kidnapped, but I can't promise anything, Micah. You might have to come up with some money. Thing is, pay the expenses of making my lord's eldest son a knight. How much expenses? Well, I have to provide him with horse and armor. And then, it's a big deal. It's sort of like a wedding reception sort of situation. There's going to be a feast. There's going to be games associated with it. I have to pay for all of this. And provide a dowry for his eldest daughter. Do you know what a dowry is? It is money, but what is specifically a dowry? What is It's the other way around. So the lady's dad, I'm going to say it in a way that makes it sound really bad, but the lady's dad pays someone to marry her. I mean, I don't mean he doesn't want to marry her, but so I have a daughter, Susie. Okay, I do have daughters, but neither of them is Susie. This is a hypothetical daughter. And all the knights of the realm want to marry her, but maybe they want to marry her, and maybe they want the money I'm going to give to somebody when they marry her. It's hard to tell. But I'm the queen, so I can afford to give a lot of money to whoever marries my daughter. But I don't know, Caleb, you're on hard times. I'm sorry. Things were better for you once. You were a nobleman, but I'm sorry, bad, I don't know, gambling debts. I don't know what you've done with the money. You're not doing so well anymore. You've got a daughter. You don't have money. And I'm sorry, Caleb, no one wants to marry your daughter. No one wants to marry her just because they want the money. It sounds awful. It is kind of awful. But this was the deal. Now, it's actually not as awful as it sounds because, all right, we're going to stop picking on Caleb and Micah and people in here, and we're just going to make up people. John and Susie get married. John received a boatload of money from Susie's dad as a dowry. If John decides he's not so fond of Susie anymore and wants to maybe not be married to her anymore, he's got to give all the money back. Oh, yeah. So, you know what? John's going to put up with some malarkey from Susie just because it's not worth the trouble of giving all the money back. And maybe John already spent the money, quite frankly. So it's protection for the woman. Do you see? In a world where women didn't really have jobs that they could do, it was hard for a woman to live by herself unless she had a lot of money. And because there wasn't much she could do to earn money. And so this protected her. Just being, if Susie's dad finds out that Susie has been divorced or Susie has been just like turned out of the house and said, Susie, hit the road. I don't want you anymore. He's going to come knocking on John's door and say, where's the money? Where's the dowry? And John's going to think twice before he does that to Susie. So it does protect her. It sounds kind of mean, like nobody wants to marry this girl unless you pay them, but it also protects her. Did you want to say something, Warren? I know, but I was doing a hypothetical. Okay. So those are the 3 feudal aids. Those are the things that you're going to have to do. You guys with me back there in the back? We're very sociable today. That's not always a bad thing. Okay. Here's a list of other things you're going to have to do, though. Why these don't make the top 3, I don't know. Give 40 days of military service a year. Attend court whenever summoned. Entertain your lord and place your whole castle at his disposal. Okay, think about this. What if the president was coming to visit your house? You know, the Secret Service is going to come. They're going to check everything out. They're going to look in all the closets. They're going to check for any cameras or bugs, not insects, listening devices. And then you would be expected, I mean, maybe not in our country, but you would want to make things nice because it's the president. Like, I would want really good snacks. If the president of the United States were visiting my house, top-notch drinks and snacks, whole meal. It's like we're going, not to Domino's Pizza. We're going to, no offense to Domino's. What's the best pizza place?
Costco.
Okay, well, we're going to be out. We're upgrading from Costco for the president. Okay, Papa John's, whatever your favorite pizza is. So if the king in the Middle Ages comes to visit you, he doesn't come alone. He comes with his whole family, his whole entourage, his most important knights and lords. Yeah, it's like maybe 40 or 50 people are coming to your house. And you better feed them. You better feed them well. You better give them all places to sleep. You better attend to all their needs. It was a big deal. If you found out that the king was on his way to your castle, it's like, shoot, I better start getting ready now. It was a big deal to entertain your lord. And last one, accompany the lord on expeditions and wars. Your lord goes to war, you go too. This was funny though. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Something I've always wondered is, why would the king and the lords go to war? It just seems kind of dumb because the king dies and you have all this turmoil back home. Oh, he's dead. Now what do we do? Like, I mean, in modern wars, we don't send the president
Oh,
from Congress to go out to war.
You know what?
It's like the most important person.
This is not a bad observation, but
they die and then we have this turmoil back home. People think their king's dead.
I guess the idea. What did you say, Micah?
Could have been your best warrior, so why wouldn't you?
You know,
because he has to rule the kingdom.
that's really not a bad observation. I guess the idea was that they will fight better in the presence of the king. So, for example, in today, a general can sit way from the front lines, right? And everything's electronically, like you're pushing a button and you're sending missiles and stuff like that. Sometimes it's on the ground. My son is a platoon leader over 6 tanks. He's in charge of all the guys in 6 tanks. And so if he gets sent to war, he will be somewhere in combat with his crews and his tanks. But a lot of times the guy in charge of the war, the general in charge, is not there on the front lines. He's just sort of manning the phones and back at the office. He might be just a few miles from the front line, but he's usually not out there in a tank, right? Because we want to keep him safe. But we fight in a way that we fight from a distance. Do you know what I mean? We can shoot each other from a pretty far distance. And there's not a lot of people just daringly like being bold and like, we're charging this hill, because they'll just shoot you. We can't really do that like we did with swords. But in the Middle Ages, they're fighting. If I'm going to fight you, I'm looking you in the eyes. I am actually fighting. And the king is standing right there and he's watching everything. Like, he can see that I'm being brave and he will reward me for it later. But today, I don't know that it's as easy to see people being brave. Does that make sense? But if the king is there watching you, I know this was true of, this is Roman times, but Julius Caesar had a habit. He was said to really reward soldiers that did something daring in a battle. He knew about it, and he'd call them up later and give them a reward. So maybe it was something like that. Maybe they thought everybody will fight better if the king is with us. He's sort of like the, yeah, I was going to say mascot, but that sounds not serious enough. He's the rallying point. He's the guy they're fighting for. But you're absolutely right. We would never think of sending our president into combat because it's just too risky. And what do? We have a chain of command here. When our president dies, we know who takes over and who takes over after that. But in the Middle Ages, it might be a free-for-all back home. You get the message that the king is dead and everybody wants the crown if they don't have a son to pass it to. So I guess it's just we think about war in a different way today, maybe. What did you say, Jaden?
Ladies, start producing.
Okay, so let's go back to the first question. We need more sons. Oh no, I didn't read the thing that was funny. Okay. So the last thing we said was you have to accompany your Lord. Are you guys with me? All right. The tale is told because you could only be, hey guys, you need to stop having a conversation. Are you with me? You could only be made to go with him for a certain amount of time and a certain distance. If he decides to attack Antarctica or something, you don't have to go, all right? Don't, because there's nothing there. Don't attack Antarctica. But if you would, it would be really far away. Okay, so the tale is told that Edward I, King of England, demanded more service than one vassal, Roger Bigod, the Earl Marshal, would give. All right, this is what he said to the king. He said this to the king. I will willingly go with you to Flanders, O king, which is just across the English Channel, riding before you in the first rank, as is my hereditary right. And the king answered, you will even go without me, like the rest. But Bigod said, I am not bound, nor is it my wish, O king, to take the road without you. The king angrily broke out with the words, it is said, by God, Earl, you will either go or hang. To him replied the Earl, by the same oath, O king, I will neither go nor hang. And then Dorothy Mills says, he neither went nor was hanged. And Edward had to give way. He could only ask him to go so far, and only with him. He can't say, you go do that. I'm going to stay here, I don't know, and eat chips on the couch. You go do that. Like, nope. If you're not going, I'm not going, and you can't make me. Yes.
The king addressing the guy, or is he swearing on God? I can't tell.
I know. It's kind of funny, isn't it? But it was swearing by God, in the print here. But yes, it's what an odd name. So you can only be asked to do so much. This is what a vassal has to do for his lord. Okay, now let's go back to that first question. All right. What are the 3 divisions in medieval society? I'm going to see if anybody else wants it, Zach, because you already had one. But if no one else wants it, going once, going twice, sold to Zach. Go for it.
Number 1. No, that was the other one. Number 1, priests and clerks were at the top. Number 2, the nobles were at the second, and then number 3, were the soldiers and peasants.
Okay. Those, they like to say, those who pray, those who fight, those who work. These are the 3 divisions. Those who pray, everybody associated with the church. Those who fight, the noblemen, they're knights. And those who work, everybody else. Most people, the peasants, the serfs, the people growing the food for everyone else. And everybody knew where they belonged. And I've had students, they don't like the sound of that. You know, in America, we read stories about how you can be born in a very poor, lowly family, but you work hard and you work your way up and you start a business or you study hard and you become a doctor. And we don't like to think that people are born into a certain level of society and you have to stay there. And in America, you really don't, right? It can be harder for some people than others, but nobody has to stay where they are. We always have options. But in the Middle Ages, it really wasn't like that. If your parents were peasants, were serfs, you're going to be one too. Sorry. Unless by some blessing of God or amazing circumstance, someone notices you're particularly talented at, I don't know, horseback riding or fighting, and they take you under their wing and train you to be a knight or something like that. It didn't happen very often. If you were born a nobleman, you're not going to end up a serf. Even if, like poor Caleb, you've gambled away all your money and you're hit hard times, you're never going to be serf level. And the thing that was changeable, though, would be the church. People, noblemen and peasants, gave their children to the church sometimes to raise. It sounds a little harsh to us today, but Nathan, people give their children up for adoption today sometimes because they can't raise them for whatever reason. So it's not much different. That basically the church adopted them. So I have 15 kids and I can't afford it. I don't really have 15 kids, Micah, but in Middle Ages I very well may have, and unfortunately a lot of them have probably died because they got sick. They didn't make it to their 5th birthday, a lot of them. But maybe my husband has died and now I can't support all my kids. So I have this son and I take him to the local church or monastery and I say, you raise my son to be a servant of the church. And they would. So and I may be a serf when I was born, but I work my way up and someday I'm a bishop in the church because I'm particularly intelligent and studious. That could happen. But for the most part, there were these 3 groups of people: the prayers, the fighters, and the workers. And everybody knew where they belonged. And people were not real fond of people getting snooty and trying to be part of the group they didn't belong to. Okay, so we have, Warren. Yes, probably not a knight, although we do have cases of church guys going out and physically fighting, but not very often. But noblemen in the sense that they're part of that feudal system, that they're overseeing lands that have been granted them by the king or a lord, or, a lord died and he bequeathed his lands to the monastery, and now I, as the churchman, am now a nobleman because I'm in charge of that land. Does that make sense to you? Did I explain that well enough?
I mean, they did a lot of fun stuff.
Yes, yes. So we have a country, and I'm the queen because I have the tall chair, and you are all my vassals. I have granted each of you, congratulations, you're all nobility. Nobody here has to be a serf. And Caleb, I give you your money back too. Now you're not in poverty. Okay. So you're all the nobility. And of course, we know that I expect certain things of you, right? You're going to have to make my son a knight. You have to foot the bill. You have to give a dowry to my daughter. You're going to have to go fight with me. But I'm sure this would not be true of anyone in this room. But sometimes people may want more than they were given, and they may want what their neighbor has. Yeah, Micah.
So, say he has like 20 vassals and one daughter. Do they all have to pay for one dowry, or what happens?
I think they all have to pay together, but it's good. It's good for each of them if there's more of them because each has to pay less.
What if you have one vassal and 20 daughters?
That stinks for that vassal.
Well, no.
Oh, but it's just the oldest daughter though. Does it say oldest daughter? Let's make sure it said that.
What if they're all the same?
This is a bad situation. You need a new lord. What is what needs to happen?
Caleb the broke vassal, and then the quadruplets and sisters.
I love the way you guys think up the worst case scenario in every situation. Okay, so I know you guys wouldn't actually do this, but rumor has it that you three gentlemen do not get along, the lords, and so Bentley would like Nathan's bit, but Nathan would like Jade, and they're constantly fighting. And of course, your vassals all come with you. And you go, Nathan, you round up your knights and you just go and burn Jaden's fields. You just burn him to the ground. You kill his serfs. You don't care. You're vicious. But while you're fighting Jaden, Bentley comes in. He's got his guys, and then you come home and it's gone. It's just rubble. Rubble. Your castle is rubble. You're doing it all the time. So here I am. I'm one of the ones who work in the fields. Oh, here they come again. If they're not burning it, they're riding the horses through it. Can you imagine a troop of horses running through a cornfield or a bean field? Is the farmer going to be happy about this? No, he's not. It's going to ruin the food. This is happening all the time. Yes. Yes, you can. Do you want to say something, Jaden? Or are you just stretching? Okay. So they developed a system in which we had time out from all this shenanigans and fighting. This is the truce of God. I know, I did blow it up, but as I looked at it, I'm like, I'm going to do it. Okay. But there was a truce before the truce of God. Listen to, I asked you to read the oath from the pact at Beauvais. I'm going to read it. This is what they swore. And listen to it and then think about how they must be normally acting. If they have to swear this, what are they normally doing? I will not invade in any way churches or the crypts of churches. What's in the crypt? Dead people. Why would you attack the crypt? That's low. Okay. I will not invade the churches or the crypts unless it be to seize malefactors who have broken the peace or committed homicide. I can go in there and get murderers, criminals. I will not assault clerks or monks not bearing secular arms. If they're not armed to fight in a battle, I don't attack them. I will carry off neither ox nor cow nor any other beast of burden. I will do nothing to cause men to lose their possessions on account of their Lord's war, and I will not beat them to make them give up their property. From the first day of May,
Just that they have to say, I will not beat them.
I know. See, they must be doing it all the time. I am invading churches. I am breaking into crypts. I am beating people to give me their property. I am attacking monks on the road who aren't armed. Okay, from the first day of May until All Saints Day. When is All Saints Day? November 1st. November 1st. I think, is November 11th Veterans Day? Okay, so do you know that's what Halloween is? It's All Hallows Eve. It's the eve of All Saints Day. All Hallows Eve, All Saints Eve, And then November 1st is All Saints Day. That's why Halloween is the eve of All Saints Day.
And people put on costumes to scare away the devils, so there's no devils on All Saints Day.
Yes. And also because it's fun.
Yeah.
And they even did it back then because it was fun.
Well,
So from May 1st till November 1st, I will seize neither horse nor mare nor foal from the pastures. I will neither destroy nor burn houses, nor root up nor cut down the vines under pretext of war. But what happens between November 2nd and April 30th? Apparently I can seize horses, mares, and foals and destroy houses and cut down the vines. Apparently I can. Because I only said I wouldn't do it from May to November. I don't feel like this is a world I really want to just relax and live in, especially with Bentley and Jaden and Nathan running around and, you know. Yeah. This is rough. So, okay. So I did kind of blow up. So what is the truce of God more than that? This was the next question. What is the truce of God? Because that sounds like a truce. What's the truce of God? Harold, yeah. Harold. Godwinson, if you want to give him a last name. Yes, but more than that. It expanded the truce I just read. So listen to it. Okay, it's so funny because it's kind of, here's my picture. I'm a knight, right? I'm not the queen anymore. I'm a knight. And I want to go attack. Well, we'll just keep going. Jaden wants to attack Bentley now because we're just going to skip Nathan. And Jaden has to go look at a calendar or something to find out if he can do that today. Or find a clock. Okay, what time? Somebody find out what day it is. What time is it now? Can I go attack him? Okay, this is what it says. I know. Well, you're going to have to wait. From the hour of Vespers, which would be sundown, on Wednesday, until sunrise on Monday, let there reign a settled peace and an enduring truce between all Christians, friends and enemies, neighbors and strangers, so that for these 4 days and 5 nights, at all hours, there may be safety for all men, so that they can devote themselves to business without fear of attack. Of course, then the other 3 days, like as soon as Monday morning comes, Jaden is on it. He's burning Bentley's house to the ground. And you better get it done by Wednesday night because you gotta stow it on Wednesday night. Oh. Well, sieging is technically not destruction or murder. It's just kind of sitting there. I feel like maybe we could finagle our way around the truce, but you can't actively attack. Do you know? Because sometimes we're besieging and we're just kind of sitting around. We're just waiting for him to starve in there, you know. But then sometimes we storm the walls. We can't storm the walls, not till Monday morning. Yeah, Zach.
What if there's some genius king who's like, who cares? What happens? Like, no one's gonna stop you.
You know what? The Pope, the church will come around and we'll get to the Pope. And remember what the Pope did to King John? And he'll stop all the church services. He'll put you under interdict. Or he'll ban or he'll excommunicate you and say you can't come to church, you can't take communion. No.
Well, then you say I don't care about you.
Well, you know what? And a few of them did, Zach. There was a kind of a notoriously pagan guy running around in Sicily and attacking people, and he just didn't care. And he even went on crusade, and he was excommunicated at the time. Like, yeah, I don't care. I'm gonna do it anyway.
Who cares?
So it did happen. Yeah, Oren.
All of them are true. Can I attack them?
Well, but the truce of God was supposed to apply to everybody,
But
all of Christendom.
But what if you use like some guy who's like, I don't care, and then they go and then they come and attack, like someone who's in it who does observe the truce of God? Do they just have to like surrender, or do they risk their religious?
So is your question? Can I defend myself during the truce of God?
Yes.
I don't know.
I would say yeah.
You guys.
I mean, Jesus
Wow.
kind of said it in the Bible, like, is it yourself.
Defending yourself is cool, but I don't have an answer for you. It seems reasonable that no one would beef about that. Yeah, Hans.
Couldn't like during the truce, couldn't you just storm the walls but not destroy anything and just walk into the castle?
Ooh, you guys are very devious.
We'd make great kings.
Wow. Okay, I can guarantee any other questions you're going to ask, I have no answers, but you can ask it though.
What about if I was like hiding and I had like black clothes on and nobody saw me in the middle of the night? So when I come and destroy things, nobody saw that it was me, so they can't accuse me of breaking the truth.
God will see you, Oren. Okay, I think we get the idea. Okay, let me finish. You guys didn't even let me read the entire truce, okay? All right, here we go. All right, let those who, this answers part of some of your questions. Let those who, having pledged themselves to the truce, break it, be excommunicated, accursed, and abominated, now and forever, unless they repent and make amends. Whoever shall kill a man on a day of truce shall be banished and driven out of his country and shall make his way into exile at Jerusalem. That's pretty bad. Okay, so each of these days on which the truce of God was to be observed had Christian associations. Thursday was sacred to the memory of the Ascension, Friday to the Passion, Saturday to the Vigil at the Tomb, Sunday to the Resurrection. Later, there were included the 40 days of Lent, then the weeks from Easter to Pentecost, some saints' days. It really got complicated. Am I allowed to attack anyone today? Now, okay, so in answer to your question, you can ask, just let me say this. Probably there were a lot of times when everybody just conveniently ignored this. Do you know? Like, I'm going to attack you, you're going to attack me, we're not going to report it to anyone, and nobody's going to know, and we're just going to do what we want to do. But in theory, I guess here's the point. Imagine a society where things have unraveled to the point where you even have to say something like this. Imagine how much they are fighting that you have to say, would you please stop fighting for a little while so you can get something done? Yeah, Hans, what did you want to say? It does not say that.
If you storm the walls, they can pour boiling water on you, but not kill you.
But here's the deal.
It's true.
They did say you can't beat them to take your lands.
You just beat them not to take their lands? See, I feel like you guys are very dangerous. You're looking for loopholes. If you were medieval knights, it would just be so dangerous to be here with you because you're just trying to find a reason to attack someone. Oh, I'm worried. Oren.
If I morally wounded somebody and then said the wound killed them, and it wasn't me.
No, that's not going to
What if
fly.
the doctor
That's not
said,
flying.
Like, what happens if
Okay.
you wound them and then
This is
they
enough.
fire
This
you?
is enough. It's funny, but you know, the important thing to remember is it was pretty brutal. And most of the brutality was, I'm sorry, Jaden Bentley and Nathan. It was these guys who, it's people like them that just will not leave each other alone. You know, maybe when they were kids, I don't know, they were little and Jaden took Nathan's favorite toy. I don't know. And so now they're adults with their own castles and they just won't let it go. They just won't let it go and they attack each other all the time. And to the point where the authorities have to say, look, guys, we're not going to fight on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We're not going to fight from May to November. Give everybody a break because we've had it. We've had it up to here with you guys. That's a weird society where we have to delineate. You're not allowed to fight on this day, but you are allowed to fight on this day. Yeah, Zach.
I heard about this one war that either happened in the Middle Ages or right after. It was called the War of the Oaken Bucket. This one city took a bucket from the well of another city and started a big war where like 2,000 people died. It's called the War of the Oaken Bucket.
Do you know, I feel like we also start arguments over things. Are you guys familiar with like the concept of the Hatfields and McCoys, does that mean anything to you? It's two Southern families that notoriously went through generations of fighting with each other. Just
like Romeo and Juliet.
yeah, you know what? Like the Capulets and the Montagues, very much so. This happens in history. In the novel, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, there are two families that Huck encounters that are just have been killing each other for generations, and Huck says, "What? Why? Like, yeah, I don't know. We don't really remember. It's just what we do." And I feel like people in all times at all places are roughly the same, and we repeat things like this, and so lest we point at these knights and make fun of these people for their feuds, we do some pretty twisted stuff too.
Such as World War One. These two little countries.
But like, why do they have to fight? Like,
It's
it's just not cool to waste life or like they're just wasting life because they don't know what they're doing.
You know, Jane, I mean, it's true. And I was about to say that life was cheap then, but that's not fair. And I'm about to say something that's going to sound really wonky to you guys. The society was very godly in the sense that I know that's why I said it was going to sound weird. Life revolved around the church and God. I'm not saying everybody was a devoted Christian, but I'm saying society in general did. But say again what you said, Jaden, because I've lost my train of thought. Get me back on track.
Why are we wasting
Oh, life.
for something?
So, so in one sense, life was precious because they recognized better than some people today that human beings are created in the image of God. But on the other hand, death was really, really common, Jaden. Just death was everywhere. People, they just get, I guess you get used to it, that death is just the way it is. And so I don't know if this will make sense to you, Jaden, but in the Industrial Revolution, when they started building factories and people were working in the factories, they didn't murder the people that were working for them, but they made their lives miserable. They barely paid them enough to live. They made children do dangerous things. It's not just the Middle Ages. Do you know what I mean? People waste life. People are selfish. Well, yes, people are selfish and they don't care for other people's lives. And I wonder if that's all times and all places. And this is just the way it came out. Anyway, it's a deep question, Jaden, and I don't have an answer for you, but it's all right.
Also, like, I'm the king. Like, these are the minorities. These are like the peasants. Who cares about them? They're at the bottom of the food chain.
There was some of that too. There was a lot of that.
Well, kind of. I mean, maybe not the food chain, but like that's
But yes.
Like they're at the bottom. Who cares about that?
No, people did not care a lot about the lives of the serfs.
Send them out.
No, people didn't care. All right. Our last question was about castles. Now, you guys are writing a whole paper and you just read pages on castles. So I'm not going to belabor the subject of castles because you've read a lot about it. But Oren was looking for this answer. What invention led to castles no longer being effective?
Actually, I accidentally did next week. I'm talking about the question. Who is the people that you might expect to entertain?
Oh, yeah, we're not answering that
I totally did the
question.
wrong one this
You know
week,
what?
sorry.
You know what? You are super ready for next week. And you know what? This week you could do this past week's if you wanted to. This has happened to me as well. Does anybody have an answer for that? They built castles and they stopped building castles. Why, Micah? Gunpowder. I can blow your castle up. Just blow it up. Blow a hole in the side. Oh, my castle does not protect me anymore. They just blew up half of it and they just walked right in. And this is why we stopped building castles. This is also why knights stopped wearing armor. It doesn't do you. I will blow you right out of your armor. Also, we're going to talk about this a little later. The English particularly developed a weapon, the longbow, and man, they could shoot those babies so far and so hard, go right into your armor. So the 100 Years' War, the war between England and France, that was kind of sort of the beginning of the end for knights in armor and that medieval idea that we think of. But new weapons made the old defenses not useful anymore. And so we might as well stop. Maybe someday you guys will travel, maybe you already have, and been somewhere there are medieval castles. It's not very pleasant inside. They're, the walls are very thick, it's dark, it's cold. I was in the Tower of London, which was sort of was a prison, but it was also sometimes a hotel. It's hard to say. And then a couple of places in France, and it seems so glamorous in movies, you know, and looking back, oh, we're living in the castle. But I don't think it was very pleasant. These were places where I'm trying to be protected from my enemies. And now we just think of them as being grand and elegant. And no, this is where I hide out so no one will kill my family. Yeah, Oren.
Supposedly they were full of like big and beautiful paintings or whatever, but
They all disappeared. Maybe we have some of them, but tapestries often. And I think, you know, you have stone walls, so you hang tapestries. A, it makes it prettier. B, maybe it insulates just a tad. Maybe that it's a little warmer if you don't have that cold stone around you. But you guys are reading a lot about castles. Is there anything, since you guys have done your outlines, did anyone read some information that they just thought was so interesting that you'd like to bring it up? Something you learned in preparing your outline that maybe you didn't know before?
Oh,
Sure.
wait. One thing I found out was fascinating is that the first source did not, or the first, or no, the second source did not have anything about nerves.
Oh,
I'm like, wow, it's really important to have two sources, but it did not have arguably one of the most basic things. It did not
both
talk
of them had
about.
modes.
but did the other one? The other one did, Jonathan?
The other one did.
Yeah.
Both of them had.
Interesting. Oh. Yeah, Oren, what did you read?
I thought it was weird that they used to build houses without wood. I feel like that would make it really easy to burn down. I feel like it wouldn't be very effective.
If I move into a place and perhaps I need short-term protection, while, you know, it makes me think of early America where they would build like a wooden stockade against the Indians, right? Of course, they can just burn it down. But while we get some more permanent habitation going, we're just going to build what we can to protect ourselves. And you use what you've got. So I already sent an email to your parents, and I had mentioned the David Macaulay books that Micah, I know for one, read the David Macaulay's Castle book, Castle and Cathedral. And I told you there were videos. Maybe you don't remember. There were videos that were on PBS years ago, like in the 1980s, years ago, and they're on YouTube in their entirety. So I put a link to them in this week's email. They're just slightly under an hour long. They're very interesting. They are both, part of them is animated because it's a fictionalized account of the building of a cathedral or the building of a castle, but based on reality. And then I know in the castle one, at least, David Macaulay himself, the author, walks around and tours various castles. The quality is not very good. It looks like 40-year-old film. You know, it's kind of dim. The colors aren't very bright, but they're really worth your time, and they're only an hour long, and they're good for the whole family. So if you have younger brothers and sisters, there's nothing in them. Okay, they might shoot arrows and whack each other on the head. So I guess your parents should be involved in that decision. But yeah, I don't think there's any of that. I don't think there's any smiting off of heads. Yeah, Nathan. Okay.
She's 10.
Well, I like to not make that decision for people. I knew a young man who was allowed to watch the Lord of the Rings movies, but he had to close his eyes whenever orcs came on.
How old was he?
I don't remember.
What? No.
It's my son's best friend, and we used to tease him. Like we used to threaten him with pictures of orcs. We have a relationship with this family that's pretty relaxed. Okay. We also accidentally showed Pirates of the Caribbean to a family that wasn't ready for it.
That's a good movie.
It is. Okay. So, so don't take your 3-year-old sibling in there and plop them in front of David Macaulay's castle without asking your parents, okay? But for all of you, certainly, there's no, it's it's not violent, but it's very informative. So very cool. We have some time left. I would like to talk about King Arthur. King Arthur, first of all, did anything, I'm going to open it up. First of all, let me say this, but then Nathan, even if it's not what I'm about to ask, you can say whatever. I'm opening up to anything that struck you as interesting or odd, peculiar, but you go for it, Nathan. Would you like to back that up with some evidence?
All he does is he laments over his fellow knights' dead bodies. He's like, oh, he was such a good knight. Oh.
Merlin's ruins all of people's death. He's like, yeah, you're just gonna die.
Oh, Jonathan. Okay, so let me address both of these. First, I'm going to start with Jonathan's. This was a joke in my family when we read this out loud. And it's like Merlin would get off on one of his things. Oh, but don't sit there. That seat is destined for the greatest knight. Who will be the son of one of you? Who will die a horrible death? But that won't happen until the Lady Nimue comes. And like Merlin, just you need some friends to talk to more because you just go on and on. You need to stop. Okay, I've already forgotten, Nathan. What did you say? Okay, Arthur's a wimp. Okay, so I got to tell you, I feel Nathan's pain just a little bit because he doesn't often go out on the quests so far. Now, you've only read a fourth of the book. So I feel like before you pass judgment on Arthur, maybe you should read the rest of the book. Okay? And he did go out and take a sword out of some creepy lady's hand in the middle of a lake. I'm not taking the sword from the creepy lady's hand. That's got to count for something.
We also fought that one night Anyway, and then because apparently the blood flowed and the grass was stained.
Oh yes, because
Arthur had no chance of winning and he still won.
because he didn't have his scabbard. He didn't have his magic scabbard that keeps him from dying and bleeding. Who took it?
No,
Morgana. Morgana Le Fay. Okay. What's up with her? Is she nice?
She was dark, but then she turned her heart was freed from evil during
Well, okay. Hey guys, shh. Let's do one at a time. But say that again, Jaden. Her heart was freed from evil before the end.
at the edge.
Yeah, she did say she was sorry, but then she took it again. So I'm not sure how sorry she is. Okay, I need you guys to wait till the end of the story, but I think we all can see that Morgana Le Fay is pretty bad news. So I just want to just add this. She is Morgana Le Fay. Sometimes it's spelled Fay. Do you know what it means to be Fay? It's not part of her name, and it's not part of where she lives. She's actually Fay. Yeah, she's Fay. What is Fay?
Evil?
You're very yes. Yes. No. No, she actually does have a husband. The story where she she transports the guys magically on the boat, and one of them ends up in prison, and one of them ends up next to a well, and he almost falls in. If he, okay, let me go back to the Fae. Fae is related. Okay, you're gonna laugh, but don't laugh. You can laugh. Fairies. Okay, I told you could laugh. Oh, here's what you got to know. So Fae means somehow belonging to the fairy world. And here's what you got to know about fairies. Fairies aren't nice. You don't mess with fairies. So the whole idea of, oh, look at the little winged baby, you know, and they're so cute on the cards or whatever. No, 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 no. Fairies will mess with you if you are not careful. And have I done my fairy speech? Because I get off on fairies here. Have I done this with you guys? I don't want to bore you.
No.
Have I talked about fairies before? Okay, Nathan's gonna
Oh, I think
we'll gasket though.
sound like back in like Lewis, he was like going out to
Yes, I did. So I did say it. So yeah. So my daughter did a whole research thing on fairies, and there was a guy that went through Ireland because apparently there's just a lot of fairy activity in Celtic countries, and I don't know why. And I'm saying this, and you're like, Mrs. Ferguson sounds like she believes it's real. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with this. I don't know if it's demonic. No, mermaids are also not nice. If you've read Peter Pan, you know mermaids can be mean. So this is a world where fairies aren't friendly to you. So a guy went. This was like 100 years ago, and he went and he interviewed people in Ireland, and he said, these are my friends. These are people I grew up with. They're not crazy. They're normal, just normal people. And I said, tell me about what happened with the fairies, so I can write it down. They'll say, yeah, well, one night I cut it through this field. I just cut through the field at night, walking home, and I come in the gate, and then there's no gate, and there's hedge around it, and I'm walking and walking and walking for hours, and I can hear laughter. I can hear laughter outside it, and then the sun starts to come up, and suddenly there's a gate. Or other people would say, yeah, I walk down this road, and then everybody who stands under this particular tree, they get a really bad feeling about it, and nobody wants to stand near this tree. It's a fairy tree. Joan of Arc's hometown, the kids claimed there was a fairy tree. So what's going on with that? I don't know. But this is to be fey. To be fey is to be a little unnatural, to be peculiar, to belong to another realm. She does spooky stuff, and she's mean, just like the fairies. Yeah, Zach.
Something else that's famous in Ireland is ale. So just saying.
This is true. And so this is not, you're not the first person who's maybe saw a connection. But anyway, so Morgana is La Fay. She's she belongs to another realm. She has allegiances elsewhere, and it's not sure why she does all the things she does to Arthur and his court, but she obviously hates them, and she's out to bring them down. Did you want to say something? It is his sister. It is his half sister, I believe. So okay, so maybe Arthur doesn't go out and fight quite as much as we'd like to see, but if he took all the battles, there'd be nothing left for his guys, right? So he's just being polite.
I mean, if he took more battles, then you'd be.
Why do they have a round table? What's the point of it being? Oh, I'm going to give it to Hans. Oh, I'm sorry, Jonathan.
Some of the knights sitting at the further end of the table are sad and angry because they aren't sitting near the head of the table.
Yeah, and if we have a table arrangement like this and I'm presiding, then the closer you are to me, the higher honor. But Merlin said, you know what? Our table is going to be round. There is no higher place of honor, although some people are still sitting closer to Arthur, but I'm not going to argue with Merlin. And so we're not in a situation where you're more honored than I am. And what happens? I'm trying to think how to ask this question without answering it. What's the deal with the chairs? How do you know where to sit?
Find
your name appears on your chair, and if you die, it disappears. It is. What if you're all just sitting here eating, and then somebody's not here, and suddenly their name just starts disappearing?
That'd be funny.
It would not be funny.
Or maybe like you would have to like take a fire starter, just go like, and then like disappears. I don't know.
What are we catching on fire? I don't
like
follow.
The name, or like it
What if you
just
scratch
catches
out
on
the
fire. I don't know.
Oh, you mean like the name just spontaneously combusts, and I don't know.
It just catches on fire. It's like,
I got the idea it just disappears, it just fades.
and then
And then a new one comes. Yes, Nathan.
Now we know where Ballin and Balin went.
Yes.
They went 6 feet under.
They did. Their names disappeared. You said that so casually. It was horrible. Let's talk about, I can't ever remember. Okay, I do call them Balin and Balin, even though after I was reading it this time, I thought maybe they should be Balan and Baline. I don't know. But I'm too ingrained in 30 years of Balin and Balin to change myself now. One of them, I can't ever remember which one, broke into a castle. Remember, he went to a castle to kill the knight who can make himself invisible. These stories are seriously weird. When you are older someday, you may watch a movie that you shouldn't watch yet, but it's a very funny movie, and it's about King Arthur. I'm not going to tell you the name of the movie, but your parents probably know. Anyway, and it's really random, just random, stupid stuff happens in this movie. And if you see this movie before you read any of the stories, you think, what? I am the Black Knight, you shall not pass. What? But then you read the stories like, dang, that's exactly what happens in the book. It's not a weirdness from this particular comedy troupe. That's what those stories are really like. It's very disturbing. He broke it, so he was going to kill the knight that turns invisible, but things went south after that. I think Nathan had his first, and then I will go to yours.
I actually watched that movie. It was
Oh.
like King Arthur and the
Yeah.
Holy
Oh.
Grail. Super ridiculous, funny.
It is super ridiculous and funny. Yes. Oh, see, you all know. Okay, now, well, I haven't corrupted you. You were already corrupted when you came to me. All right, my children were already corrupted by your age too. So he went to get the knight who turns invisible, and he just kills people invisible. It's hard to fight somebody who's invisible. You know, he just comes up and whops you and leaves. And so we're gonna say Balin, because I can't remember whether it was Balin or Balin. Okay, I can't remember which one it was, which brother. He went in, and do you remember? And the guy said, "You have struck us a vengeful stroke in my castle of Carbonek. How dare you? You will pay for this." And he's chasing him up the stairs. And Balin opens a door, and there's something very strange inside. Do you remember the strange thing that's like in an upstairs closet?
It's with the Holy Grail and the spear.
The spear. There's a spear hanging there with blood dripping off the point, and it's just hanging in the air. It's just hanging. And Balin takes it, and he just stabs King Pelles. Just stabs him with the spear. And the house shakes. You have struck the dolorous stroke. And now the castle Carbonek is cursed, and Pelles' wound can never be healed until the knight comes, whose destiny it is to heal the wound. And if you ask Merlin about it, he'd probably go on and on. And what is this spear? And what is this grail? What does that even mean? Well, let's talk about the spear first. What's the deal with the spear? It's the spear that they stabbed Jesus with in the side. What is the Holy Grail? What's a grail?
A cup.
A cup. And what's the Holy Grail?
The cup Jesus drank the
Last Supper. The Last Supper cup. Question: how did these guys get a hold of the spear and the cup? This is weird, and I don't know the whole story, but there is a legend that Joseph of Arimathea, whose tomb Jesus was buried in, went to England, possibly with or without Mary, unclear. Took spear and grail I don't know the whole, I'm not well versed in the whole saga, but it was an English legend about the arrival of Joseph of Arimathea in England. So the spear is there, and obviously they're holy because Jesus used them or they were used on him. And Balin has taken this spear and just stabbed somebody with it. Even though he wasn't worthy to go in the room, he wasn't worthy to touch it. So this is going to come back as you read. Remember the castle of Carbonek and King Pelles. All right, we're not done with him. So that's why he's laying there. He's got this incurable wound. Well, not incurable until the right guy comes, the guy who's destined to heal him. And as you remember, Balin and Balin had their ending was not great. They ended up fighting each other without knowing that it was the brother that killed each other. This is very depressing. I would like to point out a couple of stories that have a theme. First of all, Gawain, okay, do you remember? So we're all at dinner, great. And Arthur likes something interesting to happen before they eat. It's just a thing. I like to wait for dinner until something interesting happens. So a deer runs through, and a dog's chasing the deer, and then a lady's chasing the dog, and then a guy just gets up from the table, one of the knights, and he follows the lady out. And Arthur says, well, isn't that interesting? You go chase the deer, you go chase the dog, you go find the lady, you go bring the knight back and find. And so they all go on their little quests. I feel like, well, if you want something interesting to happen, I suppose opening the doors is a good idea. But if you don't want wild animals running through dinner, you should shut the door. I don't know. It is interesting, but now they got to go find out. They got to do something with it. But the job is grab the dog and bring it back. It's not your dog. I know. That's what I think. It's not your dog. You can't just take somebody's dog. Yes, Oren.
You know what would be interesting? Somebody just
I do
started-
not know. Oh, just I like, you know what? Okay, great. Saw the animals run through. It's time. Okay, so various knights go following various quests here. Let me read what happens to a couple of them. We have Gawain, and he, I get so confused. I don't even remember what he's chasing. Was he doing the lady? Okay. He and Gawain set to fiercely with their swords, the lord of the castle striking many cowardly strokes, which angered Gawain sorely. But at last, after several wounds given on either side, Gawain struck so hard that the other came clattering down at his feet, crying for mercy, and calling Gawain a sweet, gentle knight instead of the unpleasant names he had used a little while before. You shall die, cried Gawain, mad with rage, and he whirled round his sword and struck at the lord of the castle, meaning to cut off his head. But at that moment, the lady of the castle, who had been watching the battle, ran out and flung herself upon her husband's body, and her neck came in the way of Gawain's whirling sword, so that before he could stop, he had smitten off her head instead of his enemies. Then Gawain was filled with horror and shame for what he had done, and he let the lord of the castle rise unhurt and said he would spare his life. I would not mind if you killed me now, he said, for you have slain my lady love, whom I loved better than anything in the world. So he sends him off as they do. Go to King Arthur, tell him this knight has sent you. I am a shamed knight, Gawain said, for I have slain a lady. Had I been merciful to Sir Blamore, this would not have happened. We are in danger here, said Gaheris. And even as he spoke, 4 armed knights came striding into the hall and attacked Gawain fiercely. You, a new-made knight, they cried, have shamed your knighthood. A knight without mercy is dishonored. But to kill a fair lady is shame unto the world's end. A knight without mercy. Blamore, the guy whose wife got killed, asked for mercy. Now, another Sir Abellius, who is also mixed up in these quests, the knight Sir Tor is following the quest of, I don't even remember, it was the lady. Anyway, a damsel comes up and she says, I ask you for the head of this false knight Abellius, for he is the most outrageous knight living and the wickedest murderer. And he told the lady he would give her anything she wanted. However, I should have read this first. Sir Tor and Sir Abellius were fighting. Sir Tor struck Sir Abellius to the earth. Yield now, he said. Never, gasped Abellius. Never while I live, unless you give me back the brachet. Oh, that's the dog. They're after the dog. Okay. So he says, the damsel says, give me his head. Sir Abellius is the wickedest knight alive. And he says, can't he make it up to you? She says, not possibly, said the damsel. Listen to what he did. For he slew my own brother before mine eyes and would not spare him, though I knelt half an hour in the mud begging him for mercy. Sir Abellius heard this and stood a little way off and begged Sir Tor to save his life. I may not now, said Sir Tor, or I should be false to my promise. Moreover, I offered you mercy a little while ago and you would not leave. We would not yield. Sir Abellius comes to a bad end because he didn't give mercy. And he wouldn't yield to someone's mercy. Sir Gawain is disgraced because he had no mercy. Sir Pellinor, I remember what he's chasing. And they find him by a well, a dead lady, and a dead knight by a well. The shame is mine, said King Pellinor. When I rode out from Camelot to bring back the Lady Nimue, I was so eager in my quest that I would not stay for any. He wouldn't stop. As I came past the well, this lady called to me, help me, knight, help me for Christ's sake. But I would not stay, and now she has slain herself for grief, as I perceive, for this knight who has died of his grievous wounds. Sir Pellinor didn't have time for mercy. And so finally, they're gathered back together, and they all tell their stories. And Merlin gives us a speech, but this one's pretty good. Behold, now on this first day of the Round Table, I lay upon you all the order of chivalry. All of you, and those who shall sit afterwards at this table, are the knights of Logres. And for the glory of Logres, this realm of righteousness, do not ever depart from the high virtues of this realm. Do no outrage or murder, nor any cruel or wicked thing. Fly from treason and all untruthfulness and dishonest dealing. Give mercy unto those that seek it, or sit no more at this table. And always give all the help in your power to ladies and damsels. Go out to succor gentlewomen and widows. Turn from all else to right any wrong done to any woman in the world. And never, on pain of death or eternal disgrace, do you any ill thing to a woman, or suffer it to be done. No, nor for love or gain, fight in any quarrel that is not just and righteous. The first lesson of being a knight of King Arthur is mercy. Mercy. And those who don't show mercy come to a bad end. And those knights that don't show mercy regret it for the rest of their lives and are constantly looking to make amends for the fact that they just showed no mercy. Now, we spent the first part of today talking about sort of how brutal the times were, and poor Bentley and Nathan and Jaden back there were fighting each other and burning each other's crops to the ground, killing their serfs. And it was, but looking back, the stories that we write about it, looking back, there's also a code of honor. Were all knights honorable? No. Did all knights follow the truths of God? No, probably not. But there certainly was a code of honor associated with it. There were just certain ways you behaved and certain ways you did not. And the stories of King Arthur show us some of those ways, right? But they're very weird. They're weird. For next week, I would like you to read in the King Arthur book, book 2, parts 1 through 4, or chapters 1 through 4. So it's the next 4 chapters is what it is. So didn't you have trouble? Were all of your books divided in the table of contents, like book 1, book 2, book 3, book? Okay. So go to book 2 and just read the next 4 chapters. I also want you to read Dorothy Mills chapter 11. And you're going to write about castles for me. And the first story you're going to read is just awesome. There's a great poem written about this story, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, that the high schoolers are going to be reading in, I don't know, shortly. I'll bring it in and read some bits out of it because it's really you'll like it. You'll like it. What? We're reading chapters 1 through 4 of book 2. But it's the first chapter, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. This is my favorite. Although they made a movie a few years ago that wasn't very good, and is not fit for junior high viewing either. Okay, I guess with that, it says 10:09. I think it's close enough. You guys go out quietly to your next place, and I will see you next week. Have a good one.